best of all, as far as I'm concerned, it's the 17th verse of the 4th chapter of Romans. And they say God calls things that are not seen as though they were, and the unseen become seen. The Protestant Bibles, both King James and the Revised Standard Version, they say he calls into existence the things that do not exist. That I question. To me, all things exist. All things exist in the human imagination, but I need not call them into being. I can select the one that I want to call into being. So I cannot say I call into existence the things that do not exist, because they do exist, but they're unseen by mortal eyes. So I call it into being. Now, these unseen things are states of consciousness. And all states exist. They exist now. You and I are travelers, and we travel through states, as a pilgrim travels through cities. And he leaves behind him the city, but the city remains, and he goes on. So I travel through states. I can travel through the state of poverty. Poverty remains for anyone to enter it. But having shared it for a while, I didn't like it. And so I moved out of the state called poverty. But I don't destroy the state. The state is there for everyone to enter if he wants to enter it. He can feel sorry for himself, and then in no time flat, he finds himself in a state he doesn't like. But he can't see it as a state, and he thinks, what's wrong with me? He's only in a state. Don't condemn the man for the state that he's in. It's the state. And you can't kill the state or destroy the state. The state is there as a permanent fixture of the universe. But you can move him out of the state, represent him to yourself as the man that he would like to be, and see him as that man in your own mind's eye. And you will take him out of that state. The state will remain for anyone, either willingly or unwillingly, to enter that state. So we're all moving through states. And the pilgrim simply moves and moves from state to state. When you find that you can go where you want to, it's not the privilege of the rich, it's the privilege of the man who can imagine. I had no power to pull to get myself out of the army. I didn't need wealth. I didn't need any background. All I needed was the memory that I am he. Let me still know I am God. Are we not told that in the 46th Psalm, the 10th verse? Be still and know that I am God. Man, you can't be. You can't be that arrogant. All right, well, if you're not going to be that arrogant, well, then remain where you are. Remain in the little state, perfectly all right, because the state doesn't care how long you occupy it. You can occupy it from the cradle to the grave, and it doesn't care. But while you're in a state, you're going to illuminate that state, and you're going to reap the fruit of that state. But knowing that there are states, select a more desirable state, and then you enter that state. But how do I enter the state? It's all a mood. Did not Churchill tell us that the mood determines the fortunes of people rather than the fortunes determine the mood? He knew what he's talking about. The fortunes are not determining the mood. The mood determines the fortunes of people rather than the mood determine the fortunes determine the mood. I will assume the feeling. I assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And then it was Anthony Eden who told us, an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. And you can't deny the men, both were prime ministers of England. Churchill was the great prime minister during the war years, and Anthony Eden followed him after he was ousted. And when the Conservative Party came back into power, it was Anthony Eden who was the prime minister. And I've just quoted these two prime ministers. And a third prime minister, which is the great Benjamin Disraeli. He said, man is not the victim of circumstances. Circumstances are created by man. So it's entirely up to me. If I know there are states, infinite states, so I enter this state or that state or the other. and I simply enter a state by a mood. That's all I need do. What would the feeling be like if it were true? Well, then I contemplate the thing, and then what would it be like if it were true? And if I dare to assume that it is true, that's my way to success. The feeling of the wish fulfilled, sustained, is man's road to success. So tonight, dream nobly, and don't limit it by your present state, for that's only a state. You, the occupant of the present state, are equal with every being in this world, for there's only God. And the occupant of that state is God. So one who has $1 billion today, he is in a state of fabulous wealth. But he, the occupant, is the same being that you are. It's God. There's nothing but God. And the one who is enjoying great health and the one who is now not enjoying health, they're still the same being. And so, what would it be like if, and then you ask the simple question and catch the mood. So as you catch the mood, then the fortune follows. We're always believing ahead of our evidence. Don't wait for evidence. You precede the evidence by your belief, and the belief is caught by a mood. What would it be like if it were true?